How does a developer make $1 million from software they give away for free? That's the question. Today, we're going to break down the blueprint one guy created to do just that. Let's dive in. Yep, $1 million. That's the number we're talking about. A milestone Caleb Porzio hit mostly through GitHub sponsors. And when you see a number like that, it just makes you ask, well, the obvious question, right? Seriously? From software he just gives away for free? I mean, this is open source code we're talking about. Anyone can just grab it and use it. How on earth does that translate to $1 million? That's the puzzle we're going to piece together. So, yeah, this is the story of Caleb Porzio. But it's way more than that. It's a blueprint, a playbook that others can follow. And like any good story, this one starts with a huge, kind of scary risk. And when I say huge risk, I mean it. We're talking about a massive pay cut. Okay, so picture this. It's 2018. Caleb's got a nice, stable developer job. He's making around 90 grand a year. But he's got this side project, this passion, what would eventually become Livewire. And he decides to just go for it. He takes the leap. And the result of that leap, whoa, look at this. His income just falls off a cliff from $90,000 down to about $20,000 in just 1 year. That is a $70,000 pay cut. And look, passion is great, but it doesn't pay the mortgage. He needed a real plan and fast. So the big question became, how do you make this sustainable? This kicked off a period of experimentation, trying to find a funding model that actually worked. His first crack at it was relying on what he called good-hearted folks. You know, the handful of generous people who would throw him a few bucks just to say thanks, which is awesome, don't get me wrong, but you can't build a business on that. It's not scalable because you're not really giving them anything new for their money. Then he tried something much, much smarter. He and a friend cooked up this idea called sponsorware. And the concept is just, it's brilliant. Here's how it works. You build a new project, but you keep it exclusive just for your sponsors, but only until you hit a specific funding goal. Once you hit that number, boom, it's released as open source for everyone. It's a total win-win. And guess what? It worked. Like, really worked. His first sponsorware project brought in an extra $11,000 in just a couple of days. That's huge. But it wasn't the long-term answer. See, he had to keep coming up with brand new project ideas over and over. He needed something that could grow without that constant churn. And that leads us to the real game changer, the secret sauce, if you will. This is the strategy that cracked the code and put him on the path of that $1 million mark. And in his own words, this is where the vast majority of his money came from. The big secret, it wasn't more code, it was teaching. He realized that building the tool is only half the battle. The real value, the thing people would actually pay for, was learning how to use it effectively. This changed everything. He went from asking for donations to selling a high value product. And the formula he developed was so simple, it's genius. Step 1, release a bunch of free videos that cover the basics. Get people hooked. Step 2, create a whole separate library of advanced, deep dive screencasts, but keep those private, only for sponsors. And the crucial third step, he put links to these videos right inside the project's documentation, exactly where people are when they're stuck and looking for answers. And the result of this, it's just mind-blowing. This one strategy added $80,000 to his annual income in just 90 days. It was basically a money printing machine that gave him a steady, reliable income. It meant he could stop worrying about the next big launch and just focus on what he loved, writing code. Okay, so he's got this amazing foundation now. He's making a great living. But how do you go from that to hitting 7 figures in total earnings? Let's zoom out and look at how he scaled this thing up. This timeline just puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? He quits his job in 2019. By 2020, just a year later, he's already at $100,000 a year. And then by 2024, he crosses the $1 million total mark. The acceleration there is just wild. And if you want to know how he did it, just look at this chart. The breakdown of that first million tells the whole story. Look at that huge slice. $725,000. Nearly 3/4 of the entire pie came from those premium screencasts. That's the engine right there. Company sponsorships were a big piece too, at $200,000. But man, it really is all about that educational content. So beyond the screencasts, what else fueled that growth? He boils it down to 3 keys to scaling. Number 1, your docs are your best marketing tool. Forget ads. That's where your most passionate users are hanging out. 2. Your email list is your second best tool. It's way more powerful than a bunch of Twitter followers. And 3. Actually build relationships. Talk to people. That's how you land those big company sponsorships. Okay, so we've covered the what he did, but just as important is the how, the mindset behind it all. These are the core principles that make this whole thing work year after year. Here's a super smart and simple tip. Look at his sponsorship tiers. Instead of generic names like gold or platinum, he uses names that describe the sponsor, like the agency. It's a clever psychological trick. It makes a company think, oh, that's us. Instead of just trying to pick the cheapest option, it's subtle, but it's so powerful. And this quote, this really gets to the core of his entire philosophy. He says, I am not a code missionary. He's basically giving every open source developer permission to get paid. Think about it. If your free software is helping a company make millions or even thousands of dollars, isn't that okay for you to get a tiny slice of that value back? He says, yes, absolutely. His take on competition is also super interesting because it's not black and white. On one hand, he says, don't stress about other people making educational content. The more teachers there are, the bigger the community gets and everyone wins. But on the other hand, you should stress about what he calls code wrappers, projects that basically just repackage his work, take his users, and don't contribute back. That, he says, is an existential threat. So let's boil it all down to the maintainer's mindset. 3 final takeaways. 1. Be authentic, be yourself, and build real connections. 2. Protect your focus like your life depends on it. He even suggests doing something crazy like turning off GitHub issues so you're not drowning in requests. And 3. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your income. So if one platform disappears, you're not sunk. And I want to leave you with this last thought from Caleb because it's perfect. He says, you get to freaking write, freaking code, all freaking day, and freaking get paid. Don't forget, you're having the most fun a kid can have, and it's your job. And really, beyond all the strategy and the money, isn't that the dream? Getting paid to do the thing you love most? That's the real price here.